Hello, welcome to the Kingfisher project. I'm excited to show you how feathers are scattered on the model to enhance the interaction with this project. This is the Kingfisher model, and I'm hiding all its components. I have created 5 different feather models, each with its own parameters and shape. I have named them blue, white, orange, head, and black. First, we have the Groom paint, which is the base paint for the feathers. The strands are hidden because I'm not using strand data for this Groom. What matters to me are the colored points, which are actually an attribute. I have named this attribute color var and set the max clipping to 6. Each color you see corresponds to a number from 1 to 6. The second Groom is for painting the eyes, and the strands are not hidden, which means I want to use strand data. I'm using this Groom to create a uniform coverage around the eyes. The Comb Groom is used as guide curves for feather placement. And this is the final result. Now, let's take a closer look at the Yeti graph nodes. It may seem simple, but when I first used the Yeti base node to create feathers, I couldn't believe how many nodes I ended up creating. After some experience working with the feather system, I realized the practicality of each node. Now, with fewer nodes, I can achieve the best results. Here we have the paint eyes Groom, which has been converted to fibers. Then, they are groomed using the comb node. I'm calling the attribute here, and finally, I created an instance node. A couple of notable points here. When importing feathers, I can use an asterisk operator to call all feathers. This result is the feathers around the eyes. Another point is that when using length in the scale value, the length of the feathers matches the length of the fibers. I used -n for the up vector, which represents the normal direction of the polygons. An important point here is that I use an expression in the source objects section. I enter my own attribute as an expression. So, based on the attribute data, I can move between feathers. Do you understand? In the following nodes, we will become more familiar with this technique. Alright. Let's see the second part of the nodes. The paint Groom has been converted to fibers. Ignore the attribute called roll. I called an attribute named CL. And then the attribute color var. Finally, the instance node scatters the feathers. An asterisk operator is used, so all 5 feathers are called by the instance node. The question here is how the instance node knows which feather to place on the bird's head and which ones on the neck. How can we manually paint the feathers? I used my own attribute in the object expression. In this way, the instance node knows which feather is desired. This attribute has values from 0 to 6. So, if I paint a different value, the index changes, and the instance node replaces the feather model. I made notes of which index corresponds to each feather. Let's see what happened in the Hypershade. This material is an Arnold hair material. First, I switched between feather parts based on two switch values. The feather parts are prepared by Yeti and don't require attribute creation. Essentially, they separate the three feather sections, and each section is identified by an index. Then, using the attribute I created, I switched between 5 values. If the color var has a value of 2, it means the blue feather is replaced. And in the Hypershade, this value is given to the desired feather using a ramp.